Are you cool? Push it back a little so it's not on the edge of the seat. The punishment. Wait, it's not. Yeah. Oh.
The October 20th Board of Supervisors meeting to order. Each join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Board met in executive session discussed matters of litigating and personnel. Can I have the approval of the minutes?
Make a motion that we approve the minutes on the
Second. All in favor? Aye. Yep, it's fine.
Thank you. The drop off for the Scarecrow Showdown and the costume donation goal will continue through Friday, October 24th. Scarecrows and costume donations can be dropped off at any time for 6 hours, Monday through Wednesday, 8 to 4, and Friday, 7 to 3. The vault is officially open. Those that are here, costumes are in there. Take one, feel free to do them. You also got one off for us as well. The annual Halloween happening event will be held on Thursday, October 30th at 5:30 p.m. to 7:30. Anyone interested in being a candy sponsor, please have contact Kristen Bella, our park and rec coordinator. And for more information on any of these events or any of our events throughout the year, please visit warwickrec.com.
Citizens comment. CJTY code.
First, I want to thank Township Manager Carl Stenger for taking the time to meet with residents of Stockton State, long overdue. We appreciate the opportunity to finally have our voices heard. I think this board is not. I also see on the agenda that the engineer's report will be discussed. I hope that as part of this report, serious consideration is given to the penalties, the realities of our neighborhood traffic patterns. Cars leaving their driveways, interacting with the everyday residential activity significantly reduces the average speed of travel. So when the post lane goes from mailbox to mailbox, it significantly lowers the average speed. And that should be factored into any evaluation moving forward. Finally, as both a resident and a past firefighter, we need to put the budget on the agenda. I need to voice my opposition to the idea of allocating Warwick's fire relief funds or fire tax revenues to Hartsville Fire Company. Warwick has never provided such funding for other mutual aid fire companies, whether it be Minnehaha, Doylestown, or Warminster. Hartsville is no different. At this point, they serve us only as a mutual aid company. Warwick is first due on every box. And therefore, our tax dollars should remain here in Warwick, supporting our own fire services directly. Thank you for your time and allowing me to share these with you.
Thanks for your time. Next, we have Brittany Code.
Pretty good in Sand Trapper. I think my question, I guess, is more towards Kyle. It's in regards to, the dark hollow fencing that's going around the pond that's there for the playground. I understand why we have to get it with insurance, but is there an alternative to probably consider fencing in the playground area for safety instead of the pond? Or if there's any studies being done of the environmental impact because of restricting now wildlife from accessing the water source.
That seems to go around the place.
Okay, that's it. There wasn't any case. That's perfect. Then. Thank you.
Management to trial.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Deputy Chief Osborne to come up and introduce the new Warwick Township Police Officer, Richard Green.
Thank you. So tonight, we're going to welcome Officer Richard Ricky. Officer Green was born and raised in Somerville, South Carolina. He also obtained his associate's degree from Georgetown Technical College in 2019. In 2020, Officer Green was hired by the Charleston, South Carolina Police Department, where he worked until early 2025, when he and South America moved to PA to be closer to their family. While in Charleston, Officer Green demonstrated a strong commitment to service and duty, and he received many accolades from citizens as well as supervisors. During the hiring process, Officer Green stood out to us amongst other candidates. He brings to our community not only dedication and integrity, but also a warm disposition reflective of his southern roots. For some reason, we seem to be hiring a lot of southern officers. We're happy to have Ricky on our team, and we look forward to his contributions here in Warwick. At this time, I'd like to bring up Judge Stacy Workman, the Minister of the Oath of Office. The Griggs family is here, like America, and some and one, but they're a little busy right now. So, kind of relax.
I would agree.
Green.
Being sworn,
Being police.
by the police officer. Being Warwick Township. Yeah.
So our next item on the agenda is a conditional use hearing. If there's residents here that are part of the previous agenda item and you may not be interested in the rest of the agenda, now could be a good time if you'd like to leave. The next part will have to be, there'll be a court stenographer here to take the work.
Almost implied that the next is.
So before we open the hearing, quick summary. September 3rd of this year, the township received a conditional use application. An application to use approximately 2,000 square feet of the lower level building by the village for the shop for services and use, specifically a luncheonette located in C3 zoning district. Property has been identified as existing non-conforming multiple tenant by use building. The applicant intends to connect the property to public water and sewer. They have forced main lateral, water lateral, rear of the property that reflects conditional use approval to the requirement of crossing from zone 1 and 2 in the area quarter. I'll ask if Mr. Martin is
One question for you, David. Is anyone upgrade this condition? So you oh, I'm sorry.
I'm not objecting, but I did do with my notice. Could you give me a rate?
They want to connect water and sewer for a building that's on North Road and use it as a restaurant. Where the water is, it's the building across from your MDIC.
The Romeo building.
It's a dilapidated building. And
I never go down the country club.
yeah, it's across from the country club on the side of the house.
But the old Camp Newman?
East side.
The old Camp Newman? No.
Now,
The other side.
Other side of the street.
so they want to run water and sewer through the woods in the back of the property. There's a small tributary there. So to do so, they have to have this hearing to show that they can comply with the ordinance in the township. I would imagine the applicant will present this in detail, so you'll understand, hopefully understand. Sure.
I'm so comfortable with good evening. I'll do my best to summarize it as clearly as I can. My name is Andrew Saul, here on behalf of the applicant. The applicant is associated with Warwick Township. You know, familiar with an ancient cuisine restaurant. The property is actually the old township building, so it is an old dilapidated property that has been vacant for quite some time. What the applicant is seeking to do with that building is have a luncheonette on the first floor, and that'll be the Wild Ginger restaurant. And on the second floor is going to be office space and staging space. I'm explaining that in a moment. But those are by right uses, and that's not what brings us before the board. What brings us before the board is that the building is so old and been unused for quite some time. To connect it to water and sewer, we have to go to the rear of the property. And in the rear of the property is a riparian conservation corridor. So we go through what's called Zone 1 and Zone 2 to connect the facility there. It's permitted, which is permitted by conditional use. There are a number of existing non-conformities in the lot, specifically area, width, and quarterly impervious cover. I'll go through some of the documents that we have in the screen here. As you can see on the screen here, the green edge, I'll call it to the north of the property. That's the area that's going to be added back as pervious surface. And I'm not sure which two on the plan, but you'll see that around the parking area is proposed to be a line of native vegetative species. So we will be reducing the impervious surface on the lot. That's not necessarily what brings us here, but it's just something that I think naturally brings practice to use. And also being that this is going to be a restaurant areas and approach kind of instead of property. In the green binder I handed up, you go through just a couple things that are quickly understanding. And because of one, the conditional use application, as I generally described, it's very technical in nature, but we're permitted to go through what's called zone 1 and zone 2 with that very carrying corridor conservation district. But they're permitted no use includes in exhibit 1 is a deed to the property, providing same for our client. Exhibit 2 is adjacent ceiling, the applicant's engineer, ready. Exhibit 3 are aerials of the property. You'll see that it was kind of overgrown, not necessarily to take care of it at the time. Exhibit 4 is the initial plan that gets submitted with the conditional use application. Exhibit 5 is the township engineering review letter that we received in September 24th, 2025. In anticipation of going to the planning commission and to come here, we had provided revised plans that address the comments of the township engineers review letter, and that's included in exhibit 6, and also included in exhibit 7 is a written response letter from the applicant dated October 1st, 2025, addressing comments in the review letter. I can go through some in detail. But in essence, the review letter talked a lot about comments that had to do with respect to use as opposed to with respect to the conditional use application itself. I asked a number of questions or had comments with respect to how many seats would be in the restaurant, the amount of performance of the property. One of which would be a consideration would be that they were not performing with respect to zone 1, zone 2, and that they're keeping approaching into that area now. As part of this application, the applicant is actually moving some of the asphalt parking area and impervious surface in that area. They also asked that hours of operation would be provided with fully delivery, parking calculation, lighting, trash collection, and a erosion and sediment control plan, new requirements, all of which would put into the application comply with. The one comment I voted attention to is that they did ask for or ask that we at least inquire into sidewalks along York Road. At the end of our response letter, which is exhibit 87, you'll see we've included photographs of this property and the properties on the eastbound switch portion of York Road up and down that street. You'll see that if you're facing the property to the left is the vegetative area. That area separates the residential development behind it and to the right. In essence, the sidewalk is going over to that portion of the community, and to the right of the property, there are businesses and properties that do not have sidewalks. So we want to respectfully suggest that it's outside the scope of the conditional use application, being here to the condition to connect facilities to the property. But two, I respectfully suggest that impractical for this property. We did go to the planning commission. They did recommend approval of the application. One of the things that they asked that we look into is connected to the walking trail. And you'll see that in exhibit 9. The walking trail from the residential community in the rear of our property. We put together the investigative comment, we put together a plan, and exhibit 9 shows that the vegetation, berm, basin, all of which would give any kind of connection to the rear. And furthermore, further to the application, it would require new service to zone 1 and 2. See if I can kind of down the all up. Part of your ordinance requires that to approach zone 1 and zone 2, they need to have a riparian corridor management. That is in our application. The gist of it is that we're removing paving in zone 1, zone 2, and zone 2 corridor area, and adding
on sheet 2, it says that they'll be going all to and against the buffer for the and with that, I would ask that, and then submit to you that this is not something that would disrupt the community, it's objective. We should go well, appropriately, especially if it allows the property to use, which I think is no one benefits to that, which would be, there is limited use, utility of this property, because there are only 2 uses. We're seeing plans, what they revise the initial plan, but we only request a office and much that. And other portions of the building which will be vacant. That's not intentional. Well, it is intentional to the point that there are parking restrictions given in a lot of different sides. So, to put this property to use, we have this condition. There's not going to be any adverse impacts. And with the law, with that, that's it. The applicant's engineer, Jason Stone, restoring any of the docs, all the statements that hopefully sure. SNLA. Basically, your CBA is approved. And did you prepare the plan for yeah. The only this application. Correct. And you testify for this. Would you agree with that? Everything I've stated is a testament. They feel to testify for this. I don't think you could I have nothing further, but I have to change questions. I think the applicant is the owner of the I suggest that
Yeah. So Kyle, we're only looking at, we've got the entire plan, including the disturbance all, but we're strictly just looking at. Like, I would have a question about parking or the conditional use is for the service that is there. So everything else doesn't matter. Well, it matters in terms of the parking actually client or assuming it's 70 money. It is correct. So you'll see it would be 6 for required for lunch use and the office use within the store area. 25 parking spaces, build about which operation of the property, portion of the building. Then Michelle, can you explain to me when you connect the water for literally how you are you going to dig everything up and put it all back or anything? I want to eat, but it's fine.
How do you do that? So there are 2 methods for how you do that. One is either just the dig, excavate out, and cross the pipes. That's the method that we're most likely to use here. There is an option for boring under it, but that's a little bit of a difficulty in this particular situation. So as long as you say, okay, our method for just direct activation, that would be good. It's actually we can have it right up there on the plan. So we do it at a time with a low flow condition. If there is any water in this, in the waterway, it gets pumped around. But, try to do that in a dry. And there's certain requirements for how we do the water and sewer connection. You have to have an ES control plan. We would be storing the whole area back to the way it was, putting matting, and then in this case, we putting native vegetation the grass covering. There's going to be a couple little trees that have to get removed, but we can't have them with the sewer line. But other than that, it'll be restored back.
Lastly, Kyle, again, that stage travel factor looks like this. But I don't have much to say on it. One of the things the township really likes to walkability and it's already existing trail. If there's any chance we can connect through that, it might be worth while looking at it.
Yeah, if you're referring to exhibit 9, I believe it's 9. it cannot be done. But,
Illustrated what happened.
yeah, but what we tried to do was after receiving that comment from the commission, we looked into it, also we did provide some official. The grading of the full, the mention for significant. There's significant vegetation regarding the base in there. Even more importantly is we have to come back, and once we cleared all that, all of that work, we have to come back with building conditions. The DEP issue, the ES issue, I think it's significant, because right now it's just the pipes, but we're going to have walking trails, that, and it's, I'm excited that it's really disproportionate to what we're trying to do, and we've got to start with it. So that's why what we wanted to show for is we look so it's not practical.
It looks like it goes from Fallow Hill towards Lake Road.
Yeah, it doesn't connect anywhere here with road tracks. It goes from the rear of the northern residential property. And that's shown in here. It goes around further.
That was one of my questions as well. From what you said, the situation is not any existing there's line and go on with what they're required to do. Right.
And years past, what is what changed, and now they don't.
But do they have to create
They're down like they're taking impervious away in order to close it or make it back to it, or we just
We reduce that when we said it, for example, think of like the lot size, so that's one lot that same situation. Impervious, we have a situation which is not forming, or the non-conformity is much more in excess, or is in excess of what goes across the correct.
but in terms of then additional improvements space, like I saw that you told me the ADA parking thing, like consider that an interior.
Yeah, we have to.
Yes, so there'll be a whole other process after the building code showing how it's compliant. So we have an architect that can be out for the utility. And I'm not an architect, so I don't know all of this, but I do know that they have to be, we did look at one of our details, we're showing the HVAC.
the unused space.
Yeah, good question. It's really not big enough, to be honest with you. We're looking to get through this process, which is much more cumbersome. So, those scenarios, situation, property. One of the hurdles that mentioned is park. So any additional use in user in that area would require tripping. So that's something that is short term. There is no ordinance for additional space. I'm sure people out there get in line when they engage with it. Just like
The applicant is going to offer the council.
media sidewalks and no paved road.
The area near the sidewalk, but it's still offering, should be handling.
It's something that I would have to just really talk to. Would that be a condition of this hearing? You want to take a moment? We'll take a moment. I just think that from a legal perspective, I think it really is outside the scope of this application. You'll see that this application. You can apply reasonable conditions with respect to the conditional use of the application. The sidewalks, because it have nothing to do with serving what one to do. So I would respectfully request that this will not ask that that be condition. I think we can see the application. And if that's something that we look into, we'll have to review letter and to give its consideration. I just don't think it's something that is that goes with this application. We're actually not trying to find out the trail. Yeah, necessarily. Yeah. Right, and my response would be the same, so I think it's just really outside the scope of what this application is.
I think this project has good.
You're not building a station.
And they were in the previous 30 days for the building. What we have is what we have. Having further to mark, this, so, or it's
No, not in addition to what as part of this page, or just initial use for the variance. Just a little side note, that your shows sidewalk along your frontage, that's across the two driveways.
And it is what is somewhat.
It seems that the existing access to the building. That sidewalk that's already there.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct, which would be used by anybody walking along Warwick Road if the township were to increase their sidewalk or install sidewalks along the front.
The end of the response or it's sidewalk renewals. I understand that you're going to check.
Yeah, is there any other testimony to be heard? All right, hearing none, I'll call for the motion.
All right, so I want to thank the board as well.
Michael,
They posted that we, Michael, yeah.
so you made the motion. To approve the application. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
Next item on the agenda is the 2026 township budget presentation, and we consider authorization to advertise. For the township for taxes in particular, the township proposing no tax increase for 2026. We're also not proposing to change the allocation of the bill between the various funds. The same as this year. These are just a snapshot of essentially what the taxes paid for. 210 acres after the state, 1,200 acres after the trails, the playground, billions, the spray pool. Still nice to move on the practice services, police services, fire services, stormwater management, like quite a wide range of things that goes. Start with the general fund. The general fund is kind of operational fund, kind of like the name, it's for general expenses. It does not cover parks and recreation operations. The fund balance, we projected to end this year at 16.1, we'll end the year with 4 million, with a fund projection of 16.4 million. I think we're going to go further breakdown with that fund balance. It is most of the restricted fund balance, maintain the maximum reserve balance in that page, and then there's developer cash actually getting allocated. Next, just some notable revenue items. Some of our largest revenue line items. That's big certain tax, frequency, foreign fire insurance tax, capacity of fire company, state entity, land office revenue, and state permits and public safety. You can see from looking at the percent of changes, real estate revenue pretty stable, although there's a slight downward trajectory due to reassessments of property value, local neighborhood tax, income of the live in Warwick, cable franchise fees, that's going down to the continuation of people cutting the cord of traditional cable services. Interest earnings is going up slightly due to the fixed rates that our finance department is able to lock in. Foreign insurance tax is also going up. The fire committee, state aid and pension has been going up each year. We do expect that some of the land development related funding will go down as some of our large developments are wrapping up this year and sales expected. Next, there will be similar to the expenses, the police department raises, the public works raises, and the non-uniform process. The police department will have a content for next year, so the big change is this year we hired 2 part-time firefighters, and we're looking to add 4 in the sense of 4 hours worth of part-time firefighters. Black fire to kind of cover, when they're unavailable. But that would bring our total to 6 and then 7 and that's further 8 fire company. And that's all funded through the general fund. That's none of that money is coming out of the final house fund. That money is staying where it is, just completely funded by the township to help the fire. Next is healthcare. We wanted to do 7% increase in healthcare costs. We checked the numbers last week. The actual cost, you don't necessarily want to budget this one exactly. That will And then the MMOs, under the these are MMOs that were approved at last meeting. For the plan, the pension fund, the fleet, the non-uniform, pension fund, and the non-uniform defined contribution. Some notable expense categories within general fund. Kind of go over some of the percentage changes, some of the incremental increases. We do notice that from the third line down, back to the additional cost of providing fire service, which is mainly that's if they added those additional firefighters. Planning and zoning has to do with the part-time employee returning to full-time status, and then the public works department reduction to the simple fact that it's really done a nice job the last couple of years picking up on the road paving. We're at that point now where the road work still quite at the expense of every other. Insurances, the incremental increase, and then the capital fund transfers to the substantial change, and that's just all the projects that we presented last month. All those projects are shown in this budget, it's not good. The trail paving is done through the general fund, not as a capital expense, that's not additional expense. The trail that we left to next year is the Rocky Road trail system. Nothing and about looking at historical general fund balance. See in general, there's the numbers that we're expecting out. If you look at where we were 6 years ago, 12, 13, 1, come down, and now we're up at 60 to 50. With an average balance of 14 on the upside. The capital fund is a fund that doesn't receive direct millage. It's funded through that transfer, which is the last slide. So that's funded through general fund, and that's the $1.4 million to cover all the capital expenses throughout the year. We are expecting to receive $109,000 next year as part of the Valley Road Bridge project. That'll all still be pre-engineering, place expenses, restructuring. Next is the road machinery fund. This fund does receive $0.75 million of real estate tax. Earmarked to the state and public works related to vehicles. The machine that we spent last month, the dump truck, that's still the budget should be there at cost of the next is the highway aid fund. This is the fund that collects the state aid portion. Essentially, it's a portion that comes from every gallon of gas and diesel that is sold that is throughout the state. Small portion of that money gets put into a state fund. The state disperses it to the various attempts to save something out of miles of road. Use some of that money. Use all that prepaid roads. If we add general fund money, they don't get. That's where the bottom numbers are. There's $460,000 from state funds, and then added $60,000 county general fund. $776,000. This number is up from the number that we did last month. $600,000 last month. That was park systems. We have campus counselors, safety counselors, parking lot coordinators. We have programs, tickets, and the maintenance of our facilities, like the playgrounds, the trails, and just our open space in general. Historical fund balance, again, has been stable. You can see the average is cut off slightly, but it's a $500,000 number. And we anticipate ending next year at just under $600,000. Parks and Recreation Capital Fund, again, another issue tax millage. It's anticipated to receive about $258,000 next year. And this is the money that we use for the various park projects, playgrounds, and just development in our park system and vehicles and those types of things. We had a few different options that we presented last month based upon whether the township would be receiving grant funding. So I don't know whether we received they haven't announced it, the Gateway Park Playground. And then as we get further into the agenda tonight, you'll see that we have another grant application prepared for that project. So we still have 2 applications that are pending that we don't know. So we based the budget on that we didn't get it, and then we changed the project to include the landscape trailers. Next is the Firehouse and Equipment Fund, has its own notice as well, received $195,000. Cash balance is held by the Warwick Township Fire Company, and a small cash balance is held by Parks Fire Company. There's an operating and capital expenses of $232,000. When you get into the township's firehouse and equipment fund, and then the Warwick Township Fire Company's fund, it's important to note that they have their own budget, which will be presented next. And this is just the money that the township holds for their purpose, but it's not the entirety of what they have. That's the important note to make. So their total revenue is it would be about $401,000. None of this, again, I'm reiterating what I said before, but it's an important point to make that none of the part-time career firefighter program expenses are coming out of this fund, all coming out of the township. The historical balance is projected to be $657,000 this year, about $616,000 next year. Your average is $661,000. Again, it's been pretty stable. We're funding a lot in that class. Larger capital expenses recently. Last is the capital project fund. So this is a fund that holds certain escrows that were from development. We've not yet been able to return. So as time goes on, we've been able to dwindle this number down and use it for various projects, towards various projects. So it's very specific into what there might be 10 numbers that add up to that 90,000. It's very specific on what those items can be used for. So we have to kind of wait for an opportunity for next year. We're not anticipating that to come up. This is a total, we total all the funds together, and then you look at where we would be, 18.77 million at the end of this year. With $16.75 million. So we continue to spend. millage breakdown. So the darkest of the green, that is the Central Bucks School District. They make up 77% of the tax bill. They are on their own tax bill. And then you get a second tax bill that is the township and the county combined. That, the township of that is only 8%, and then the county is 15%. So we're, by far the smallest portion of the total real estate taxes that are paid in a year. This is a comparison of millage increases since the year 2010. We've had no increases in over that time, and all of this some municipalities, as they're going to, specifically, you see the ones that are getting into career firefighters, Warrington, Doylestown, and Northampton, that they've had many tax increases over this year. And this is your tax millage rates. So Warwick, Wrightstown, and Buckingham are the bottom three. And you see, Northampton, Doylestown, Warminster, and Warrington are essentially more expensive to live in terms of the taxes being set. So just a summary message of this budget was out. Was it's the 16th year with no tax increase. It's a focus on emergency preparedness and fire services, and yet continuing to fund infrastructure, road, and sidewalk funding. That's our budget.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Make any questions?
No questions.
Just not a question, but just to clarify, that we were getting on page before, our kind of firefighting, but I haven't been probably, but as no additional cost.
Correct. Yeah,
Just
we're
giving us more
anticipating,
coverage.
right, that it will be up to 6. That they won't always be able to work, get all the shifts that they need to provide coverage for. So that extra one is. That's it.
But no, we're not budgeted, planning for coverage.
Just a general comment. Project. Sycamore Bridge, we don't just uplift that we need to do, we get well-established fund, we're able to do that without worrying.
I also want to thank Becky for all of our students carrying the budget. Takes months.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready for a motion, Joe?
Motion down. Yes.
Motion to advertise, is that what it is? That's correct, but, all right. A motion that we advertise the 2026 township budget.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
Next item is the 2026 Warwick Township Fire Company budget presentation. I think they're here, they're going to present their budget.
Well, Ryan Trigger and Chairman Burger Trevor, we met with Becky about the budget previously, and we go off of our profit and loss sheets for last year, and we see what we actually spent in each of our line items, and there's some increases and some decreases in some areas. But the big overall capital spend that we're asking for is that the firehouse generator is on the last leg, and it also doesn't serve the entire building. It only runs the rooftop unit and 4 lights in the engine. So we want to use 100,000 of the firehouse equipment fund in order to fund getting a correct size generator for the building. With having a guys there, it doesn't light up the entire upstairs. So the bunk rooms, none of that has no lights. The meeting room has no lights. So for the crack size generator, that's, $26,000 from correct ferry. In order to use that money to get an engineer study for the correct size generator installed, not just a guess between our members. That would be what actually is needed to serve the building. Everything else is pretty much close to the same.
As it related to the Warwick Fire Presidents of the township in our budget, we placed trust.
We didn't get that in writing. It was something that he said we should mention to him, but 50,000, when you replace like for like what we have now. So it wouldn't be worth going that route. It would not be the light up downstairs or the meeting room or the hallway and down to
Yeah,
going.
it wasn't about putting a $50,000, $100,000. $50,000. So the other $50,000 come from the Warwick Township Fire Company funds. But we're not telling you to put in an undersized generator.
All right.
But the board is comfortable with our plan.
Any questions? All right,
Make a motion that we adopt the 2026 board fire company budget.
all in favor? Aye. Thank you, Tom.
Next item is the ordinance 2025-04 Parks and Recreation Ordinance Amendment. In response to the growing community, police and park and rec department concerns regarding high-powered e-bikes, staff prepared an amendment to the park and recreation ordinance that go over some of the substantial changes, excuse me. And I do want to clarify, this is just, these are high-powered e-bikes, not your traditional e-bikes. These are e-bikes that are almost motorcycle-like. So what we did with the ordinance, we added the definition of what a bicycle, an e-bike, and e-scooter is, to clearly define what constitutes each, and outlines the parameters of each one. So specifically, an e-bike is defined as not weighing more than 100 pounds, manufactured or assembled with an electric motor system, rated not more than, 750 watts. That's the key distinction, because anything over 750 watts is a high-powered e-bike. And it's equipped with operational pedals and capable of speed not more than 20 miles per hour. The e-scooter, again, is a definition of the weight that it has a motor, that it has a floorboard to stand on. So those types of definitions are added in here. So those types of bikes, scooters are all clearly defined if enforcement is necessary. We also clarified that a motor scooter or an e-bike greater than 750 watts, motorcycles, mini bikes, go-karts, golf carts, UTVs, ATVs, and snowmobiles and similar vehicles are not permitted in the parks zone. That's change. Dan's here, Dan wishes to add anything additional.
You covered it. Seen it in plus.
You mentioned golf carts. What are the regulations on golf carts? I've actually seen you lately,
Well,
any regulate them all?
I would suspect you're not allowed to do that, but at least it's
There's that. I've never seen one that just flat you want months and that means memory.
There are regulations for golf carts. Actually, sitting right here with the three of us, we're just putting our heads together. There are some that are allowed, but they're on residential streets. They're not on our, on right. Yeah, what, those golf carts, they need to be registered, they need turn signals, they basically the same thing as a car. I can get you the full details on that in the next day. But, essentially, they're not, unless they meet all of the PennDOT regulations, and very few.
This ordinance is about not. I know, just, well, I came up, I was thinking about that.
Yeah, the actual question, is that also on open space as well? Or is
Yeah.
that just in our parks? Is it
Any-
open
any
space?
Township property.
No questions. Dan, any comment? This is a motion to advertise. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion that we advertise for ordinance 2025-0.
All in favor?
Next is resolution 25-32, and we have this budget presentation. We are currently open to replace the Guinea Lane playground. Obviously, I always say we get one, but in the case that we're unsuccessful, this third grant application was prepared. It's similar to one of the two that open. It's requesting $416,000. This is the LSA grant. This is the grant that's funded through gambling, Argentina, and it's one of the best grant programs out there. And it's going to be used for a very wide range of that's why it's best to target expensive, large ticket items when we're applying for this. Playgrounds become one of those large expensive items. So if you'd like to, you can make a motion to approve this resolution.
Any questions?
No questions, John? Make the motion that we consider adoption of the RES. That's the Building Park Playground statewide LSA grant application.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. Next is the Warwick Township Fire Company Fire Services Agreement. The prior agreement, which was executed in 2017, detailed the mortgage arrangement between the township and the fire company at the time the township assumed the position as the mortgage holder for the Warwick Township Fire Company's firehouse. As we transition to a part-time career firefighter program, a revised agreement seemed necessary to outline the terms and responsibilities between the parties. The new proposed agreement makes the following changes. It establishes the part-time career firefighter program, the general oversight and responsibility belonging to the township. It establishes a township fire services coordinator to provide supervision and scheduling of the career staff. More clearly details our stipend program for existing employees or all volunteer firefighters. Pension program, which again, that program is funded not with fire house funding, but through the general fund. Clarifies the party responsible for gear and uniform purchasing, provides career firefighters with industry standard amenities such as a bug room, washer, dryer, lockers, and outlets, and clarifies when the volunteer fire chief has operational authority over the career staff. And lastly, adds a 5-year term to the agreement with an automatic 1-year rollover. That's just to, make sure both parties are doing, at least so many years to keep it current. So, if the board would like, you could adopt this agreement.
All the questions?
No.
Any motion?
I make a motion to adopt the Warwick Township Fire Services agreement.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Next is the treasurer's report for the month of September 2025. Revenues outpace expenditures by $836,996. Real estate transfers posted $76,639. Building permits posted $56,012. Renting tax posted $276,899. Local service tax posted $2,827. Fund balances for September are as follows:
General fund, $16,363,876. Firehouse and equipment, $767,108. Road machinery, $162,922. Capital projects fund, $530,716. Highway aid fund, $16,467. Parks and recreation fund, $787,453. Parks and Recreation Capital Fund, $579,724, and Capital Reserve for $90,491, for a total of $19,298,837.
Thank you. Michael, any questions?
No questions.
Comment?
Question.
Have a motion.
Make a motion to adopt the minutes report of September 2025, subject to audit.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
My last item is the bill payments. I request approval for the bill payments for October 6th, totaling $381,544.26, and for October 20th, totaling $541,890.04, subject to audit.
Michael, any questions?
No questions.
Robin, any questions?
No questions.
Have a motion.
Make a motion to adopt the bill payments for 10/6 and 10/20/2025, subject to audit.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Solicitor's report. Mike?
Thank you. My first item is the Bucks County Human Services Warwick Township Pro Responder Program renewal. This is to consider the authorization to execute memorandum of understanding. This is a small change from the agreement approved in July of 2025, where to extend the program past, where it went to May 31st, 2026. The county has secured funding to extend it to December 31st, 2026. That's the only change on the condition.
It goes till the end of the year.
Next year.
Got it. All right. Michael, any questions?
No question.
Have a motion.
Make a motion to authorize the memorandum of understanding Bucks County Human Services Warwick Township Co-Responder Program renewal.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
My second item is the Verizon franchise agreement renewal for consideration. By a memorandum of the subsequent modifications to the prior renewal agreement. I can go through that briefly. Definitions. Advised to take out specific wording that was having to be based on the Communications Act, to just refer to the Act, and also add to the definition of force majeure to include epidemics, pandemics, and public health emergencies. Termination of the agreement it removed a requirement for a subscriber rate decline prior to the 12 months notice for termination. As now written terminations for any reason. Notice. There's a modification on termination based on the ESP competitive equity. Basically, the law is passed that reduces like the township can require or impose on Verizon, or if the township enters into a more agreeable agreement with a different service provider. There's a requirement to negotiate good faith with Verizon to meet the agreement, and if we cannot, there's some revenues that Verizon has to accelerate in return. Providing cable services to public buildings. Since the last franchise renewal, there was an order rated down known as the 621 order, which now requires the services to public buildings to count towards a 5% cap that governments can charge franchisees, in this case Verizon, for using their services. All of them references to the requirement to provide cable services to public.
All changes were advised. That right to changes to education government assignments. They can charge, they're being reimbursed. The township decided to do facilities, education government programming, insurance, they have pretty moving on the general and really property and injury, vision, where we want federal or state laws pass that preempts the vision. Remember that. Repeal the law. The vision is not really. And you have a good thing here. Agreement is not defined, penalized. This. Understanding. Circumstances. One is under the agreement. Difficulties and hardships on the personal rights. Those are some the meaning of along the board. Make a motion for approval for the right.
Second.
All in favor? Michelle? You
Thank you. First item I have for you is escrow release number 4, which is the final escrow release for Robinson's properties located at 800 Alms House Road, otherwise known as Landella number 17-03. We can now certify that all of the items are now complete, and we are recommending the release of all escrow back to the developer. The remaining amount of escrow is $27,000.45.
have one question? Have a motion?
Make a motion to approve file escrow release for LD 17-03 Robinson.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
So the second item I have for you is the Fairway Drive speed study. Pursuant to the township's request, I reviewed 2 sets of data that regarding the speeds along the Fairway Drive. One set was during a period in June of this year, and the second set was a 45-day period between August and October of this year. I reviewed the data, looking at what the 85th percentile speed is, and by way of that, what the speed limit should be for the roadway. The posted speed limit of that road is 25 miles per hour. So you might ask, what is the 85th percentile speed and why do we use it? The 85th percentile speed is the speed at which 85% of the vehicles in a free flow condition are traveling at or below that speed. The 85th percentile speed is the most common method used in engineering theory to determine what a speed limit of a roadway should be. It states that most drivers are reasonable, they don't want to get in crashes, and they tend to account for surrounding conditions but they want to get to their destination as quickly as possible. Said a different way, it's the speed at which drivers feel that they can safely travel that roadway. For each of the time periods of the data sets that I received, the first data set had over 3,800 vehicles in its data set. The second one had over 7,100 vehicles in its data set. And when you use the 50th percentile speed, you need to have at least 100. So we were way over that amount for these two data sets. And again, the data shows what is actually happening. So for the first data set, the 85th percentile speed was a little more than 28 miles per hour. The second data set, it was a little more than 30 miles per hour. And again, remember that the 85th percentile speed is the speed at which most municipalities determine what the speed limit of that road is. Again, it's saying what most drivers feel that they could safely travel that road. I then looked at the data to determine what the highest speed was, because with knowing what the 85th percentile speed is, I also wanted to see if there was excessive speeds, what the highest speed was, if there was a lot of people traveling way over that posted speed limit. And I had the most data for the first set of data points, so I'm going to talk about that. The first set of data points saw the highest speed was between 46 and 50 miles per hour. The data, so that means that only 0.1% were traveling over 25 or at 25 miles per hour over the speed limit, 0.1%. Another 1.2% were traveling 15 miles per hour over the speed limit, and 9% were traveling 10 miles per hour, again over that 85th percentile speed. Knowing that the speed was between 46 and 50 miles per hour as the highest, I do not think that that is, and it was only 0.1%, I do not see that there was excessive speeding along that road with those percentages. If I found that the 85th percentile speed was over 10 miles per hour over the posted speed limit, we could then talk about traffic calming. Again, using engineering judgment, engineering theory, traffic calming is only really used when your speed or your 85th percentile speed is 10 miles per hour over the posted speed limit. So in conclusion, in looking at the data sets, I think that the posted speed limit is adequate and accurate for that one.
All right. Any old business? Marvin? Pat? New business? Mike? Pat? Public comment?
Yeah, I got one. So how many of you are gonna let people do 50 miles an hour in your neighborhood? That's all I got. That's all I got. Mountain View, you live on Hump's house, so they always do 50 on there. But you have like about 10,000 feet to your house. So like, what's it acceptable to do 50 miles an hour in residential? So what's it gonna take? I hope to God I'm not the one that gets hit by a car at 50, because that's fatal. I hope to God it's not my son, my daughter, my neighbor's sons and daughters. Actually, why don't you guys go walking around the neighborhood? You guys leave by the car. Have a good day.
Any other public comment? Take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion for adjournment.
Ridiculous.
Where did you hear about the? I think there's some confusion. You're the second person.